Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are LA.
It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Prime Ticket presents the Dodgers as they take on the San Francisco Giants. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Sunday to you, wherever you may be. Final game of the series with the Giants, and after 15 games, the last-place Giants have an edge on the first-place Dodgers. They've won 8 of the 15 meetings. The Dodgers still hold a slight edge at home. They've won 5 of 9. Today, it'll be Ryan Vogelsong on the mound for the Giants. The big right-hander was a 14-game winner last year. He comes to the mound today with a record of 3-5. Why? Back in May, while at the plate, he was hit on the right hand, suffered a fractured hand, missed 69 games. But he's ready to go today. He is 2-1 in his career at Dodger Stadium, and he is 4-3 lifetime against the Dodgers. Edinson Volquez will be on the mound for the Dodgers. He has a record of 9-10. He is 0-1 since coming over, and he has struggled against the Giants. 2-2 lifetime, but he hasn't beaten them since 2008. We'll get to the ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this. On your Hyundai dealers, come test drive the fun-to-drive 2013 Sonata. By AT&T U-verse TV. Check availability at 1-800-PIC-ATT. And by Jack in the Box. Go big at a participating Jack in the Box with Jack's really big chicken sandwich combos for only $3.99 plus tax.
Sunny side up at the Ravine. Temperatures in the mid-80s. The final of 4 against the Giants, and a chance for the Dodgers to whittle that magic number down from 4 and shake off the sting of last night's 19-3. Most runs ever allowed by an opponent at Dodger Stadium. Dodgers brought in 6 pitchers last night. The Giants offense went all Walter White on them, whacked all 6 guys in the course of about 90 minutes. So the Dodgers lose the game. They lost Crawford because of a tight back. Puig went out because of a hip. Those guys are out of here. They also lost ground to Atlanta for the best record in the National League. 14 games left, Steve. Dodgers have 2 paths to choose. They can either rest and coast into the playoffs, or they can push and make a run for the best record.
You know, I like it when you push. Make a run for the best record. Make the games meaningful down the stretch so that you continue to have something to play for into the playoffs. I don't like resting players. I don't like feeling like, no big deal, we don't have to win games, because they really don't. You got to win a few more, but, you know, the math will take care of it. But they have to rest. They have too many guys that are banged up or semi-injured right now. They have to get them healthy. You have to set up your pitching rotation. Back off just a little bit. Forget about best record in the National League unless it just falls in your lap, and go from there, go into the playoffs healthy.
Edinson Volquez gets the start for Los Angeles. He was pretty good on Tuesday, 6 innings, allowed 3 runs on just 4 hits. And here's the best stat in his entire time in Los Angeles, 10 innings. He's only walked 1 guy. Vogelsong goes for San Francisco. Dodgers Giants. Enjoy it.
Final game of the series with the Giants, and the final game of the homestand that started with Arizona. And the Dodgers are leaving here tonight and head to Arizona. The magic number remains 4. Arizona won yesterday. The Dodgers took it on the chin here. So they're going to try to whittle that thing down. And during the game, we'll certainly keep an eye out on that Colorado-Arizona game. It'll be Ulysses Chacin going for his 14th win against Randall Delgado for Arizona. Remember, Randall Delgado was here and gave up, I think, 7 runs in his last outing. We can take a look now at Bruce Bochy's ball club. One of the San Francisco writers came into the Giant dressing room to interview Bochy last night after the Giants had scored 19 runs. And the writer said to Bochy, "Were you concerned that you left 10 men on base?" Well, here's his lineup today. Gregor Blanco opens up in center, Marco Scutaro at second, Brandon Belt at first, and Hunter Pence hits cleanup in right field. Pablo Sandoval at third, Hector Sanchez will be behind the plate, Brandon Crawford at short, Juan Perez in left field, and Ryan Vogelsong on the mound. On the mound for the Dodgers with a record of 9-10, 0-1 as a Dodger. He is 2-2 lifetime going up against the Giants. He has not beaten the Giants since 2008, although at the same time he hasn't had that many chances. For Edinson Volquez, among other things, he had Tommy John surgery back in 2009. He does not control the running game very well, so if the Giants get aboard, they might put it to him. His career, and it is a split career, he's usually close to being dominating before the All-Star break, but he's been dominated after the All-Star break. So we'll see about Edinson Volquez. He's from the Dominican Republic, 6 feet 225, 30 years old, and he'll be greeted by Gregor Blanco, the left-hand hitting outfielder. Normally plays left, and he's playing center field today. Volquez ready, deals, and it's outside, ball one. Blanco did not start last night, but he has given the Dodgers a bad time in the past. Left-hand hitter looks at a pitch low, and they count 2 balls and no strikes. The temperature right now here at Dodger Stadium, 87 degrees. So Volquez behind 2-0. Looks down, rocks and turns, and the 2-0 pitch on the way. Blanco takes a strike. When you compare the two lineups, you would think really it's the Giants who are in first place and the Dodgers perhaps in last place, especially when you look at what they have done in the division. Blanco, a high fly ball to center, going back as Schumacher backs out onto the track and makes the catch. That ball was really hit. Schumacher caught it about 5 feet from the center field wall. So 1 away, and while we're at it, let's take a look at the Dodgers with the leather. They shape up this way: Gonzalez and Ellis, Gordon and Uribe, and the outfield, Hairston, Schumacher, and the rookie Nick Buss, A.J. Ellis behind the plate. The reason we talk about the fact in comparison it's almost shocking. First of all, going head to head, the Giants have beaten the Dodgers 8 of 15. But more importantly, the Giants are 9 games above 500 in the Western Division. And the best the Dodgers can do, well, they're break even. So 1 away in the first inning. Volquez giving up a long out. Bruce Bochy, who brought his club a championship last year, watching as Scutaro takes high. 2 balls and no strikes. So Volquez was behind 2-0, and Blanco took him deep for an out, and he comes right back 2-0 to Marco Scutaro. 2-0 pitch on the way. Scutaro has a look, pays a strike, and the count 2-1. Brandon Belt on deck. A couple of boys last night really had a time. Belt with 6 runs batted in. Hunter Pence had 7, and there's a little story about 2 of them we can tell you in a moment after Scutaro has had a disposition. The 2-1 pitch on the way to the Giants second baseman is a ground ball to the right side. Up with it easily there is Mark Ellis. 2 down. 2 things about Brandon Belt. The Giants have been after Brandon Belt to bring his hands down. He had them with a high elbow, and his hands were way up almost back of his ear. And he was hitting base hits to left field, but no power. And they finally convinced him, never mind holding your hands way up high and the elbow sticking high up in the air. And he has finally learned to do that. And here he is now with 16 home runs. He swings and hits a hopper, grabbed by Adrian Gonzalez, feeds Volquez coming over. and a nice play at both ends. So down go the Giants, and at the end of half an inning, Giants nothing, Dodgers coming up. Handle Blanco, and then Adrian Gonzalez going wide to handle Belt. Volquez, with good defensive plays, made only 9 pitches in the first inning. Take a look now at the Dodger lineup as we go to the bottom of the first inning, and Mattingly's card has the following names on it. D. Gordon leads off at short, with Mark Ellis at second base and Adrian Gonzalez at first. Juan Uribe at third, Skip Schumacher in center, Jerry Hairston in left, A.J. Ellis behind the plate. The rookie Nick Buss, who made his major league debut last night, is in right field today, and Edinson Volquez on the mound. On the mound for the Giants, the right-hander Ryan Vogelsong. Vogelsong, born in Charlotte, North Carolina, lives in North Grafton, Massachusetts. He went to Kutztown University, and that's where he was drafted by the Giants. Had a lot of tough luck last year, but he still won 14 games, and his first pitch to Gordon in for a strike. Vogelsong then this year, after winning 14, was hit on the hand in a game against Washington, fractured his right hand, and he missed 69 games. So the right-hander strike one pitch on the way, and Gordon takes high. 1 ball and 1 strike the count. So the Dodgers and the Giants finishing up here. The Dodgers will finish up in San Francisco in the middle of the week on the 24th, 25th, and 26th before coming home to end the regular season. Gordon fouls a pitch away, and the count 1-2 to D. Getting a chance to play short. He's been taking a lot of ground balls, we understand, at second base. Finished up at second base last night. Gordon for the year hitting .228. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Vogelsong turns, ready, right-handed delivers, and it's hit in the air down the left field line and will go foul. We're talking about the Dodgers going to Arizona when this game ends. The Giants will go to New York. They will not only go to New York to play the Mets, they also will play the Yankees. In fact, the last time the Giants played 6 or more games in New York within the same week, you'd have to go back to when they were the New York Giants in 1957 in September. Gordon, a dribbler up along first. Vogelsong gets rid of it in time, and Gordon is out 1-3. 1 away. We can take a look at the Giants now defensively, and they shape up this way. Belt and Scudero on the right side, Crawford and Sandoval on the left, Perez, Blanco, and Pence in the outfield, and Hector Sanchez behind the plate. So 1 away, and Mark Ellis coming up. Mark hitting .271. He has 6 home runs, 44 runs batted in, has played a very, very steady second base. Vogelsong turns, ready. Ryan delivers. Check swing for a strike, and the count 0-1. The 16th meeting of the year. There'll be 3 more to make it 19 in San Francisco. By the way, the Giants have played even better at home. Line drive down the left field line, and Mark Ellis on his way for an extra base hit. Perez over to pick it up, and Ellis steams into second base with a 1-out double into the left field corner.
First baseman number 23, Adrian Gonzalez.
So Adrian Gonzalez will be coming up with a chance to pick up an RBI for Adrian, who has certainly been Mr. Steady. Gonzalez hitting .294, 20 home runs, 92 runs batted in. And to cap off a very solid year, he even has a stolen base. So Gonzalez with a runner at first and 1 out. Juan Uribe hitting cleanup behind him. So Adrian checking in. Vogelsong. The outfield split a little bit in the sense Blanco shades him a little towards left center, and Perez moves over towards left center. And the first pitch is hit in the air, foul off to the left, out of play. 0-1. So the way the Giants are playing Adrian Gonzalez, they're playing him, and no doubt they will pitch him that way. If he hits the ball in the air, they'll shade him to right. The infield, however, is set to play him if he pulls. Marco Scudero on the rim. Pablo Sandoval is way wide at third base, and that means Brandon Crawford is directly behind Ellis at second base. Gonzalez way out in front of an off-speed pitch that came up at 81, and the count 0-2. So Ryan Vogelsong trying to keep it going for the Giants. Adrian Gonzalez is just 0 for 5 against him in the past. Vogelsong looks down, gets a sign. Now the right-hander ready. And the strike 2 pitch on the way. Swung on, lifted into right field. Coming in for it is Hunter Pence. Right there to make the catch. Holding at second base is Ellis. So Gonzalez fly ball to shallow right. 2 down, and Juan Uribe coming up.
Number 5, Juan Uribe.
Juan Uribe going up against his old ball club, hitting .276. He has 11 home runs, 46 runs batted in. So Gonzalez unable to advance Mark Ellis, and now Uribe trying to get him home. Hitting behind Uribe is Skip Schumacher. Vogelsong, who has had a long career, and among other things, Ryan Vogelsong has bounced around a little bit. Right-hander looks back at second base, comes to his hitter, and it's fouled back. 0-1. Vogelsong spent a good portion of his youth in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Went to Octorara High School. Nobody really saw him play. His friends asked him to play summer league softball, but he decided to play American League baseball because that's really what he wanted. When he went to Kutztown, he was a walk-on as a backup shortstop and a third baseman. The pitch to Uribe, a check swing, and it's a bum check. It'll be a strike. 0-2 the count to Uribe. And in the life of a young ball player, Vogelsong became the starting third baseman because 2 players quit, and then 2 other pitchers suffered broken arms. That must have been quite a ball club at Kutztown. And the coach said, "Would you like to try pitching?" And a major league pitcher was born. The Vogelsong out of a stretch, and the right-handed strike 2 pitch to Uribe, swung on, pulled deep to the hole. Crawford gets rid of it in a hurry and throws him out. Boy, was that a big league play. He was deep in the hole. He didn't have time to just catch it and throw, and he was right on the money. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. At the end of an inning, no score. Well, Hunter Pence has had a huge series, capped off with 7 RBIs last night with a grand slam home run. During this early days of the month of September, he has 22 runs batted in, leading the pack. Ramos, Cadaya, Ruiz, and Zimmerman trailing, with 22 RBIs for Hunter, and he's had 16 in the last 5 games. So Hunter Pence checks in. Volquez ready and deals. Big curveball backs him away and breaks in for a strike. The last Giants player to drive in at least 16 runs in a 5-game series, my idol, Mel Ott. Back in 1934, Ottie did that. 16 RBIs over a 5-game span. Spence looks at another pitch, and the count 0-2, though he's in a bit of a hole. He's also a workhorse. He's playing in his 150th game. Strike 2 pitch in the dirt. Joey Votto of Cincinnati is the other workhorse who has played in just about all of them. And when we say 150, it means Pence has played in all of his. When you look up the batting numbers, you find Pence in the top 10 in so many areas, starting with hits. Here's the 1-2 pitch to Hunter. Swung on, high fly ball into deep left field, going towards the track, and watching this ball go over the wall is Hairston, and Hunter Pence stops at second base. He doesn't know whether it's a home run or not, but it is. So Hunter Pence continues his amazing hitter, and especially against the Dodgers. So just like that, the Giants take a 1-0 lead. So Pence, coming off a brilliant game last night where he had 2 singles and then the grand slam home run, 7 RBIs. So he now has 8 RBIs in the last 10 innings. And Hunter lets it fly. The batter now is Pablo Sandoval, hitting left-handed. He takes a strike. For Hunter Pence, that would be his 24th home run and 90 runs batted in. He's hit 1 in each game of the series. Strike 1 pitch on the way is swung on and beaten into the dirt. 0-2 the count to Pablo. Take another look. Mile high fly ball. Hairston went back as if he might have a play, but it cleared the wall in left center field. So Pence, who is blazing hot, continues and leads the Giants 1-0 in the second inning. Into the windup goes Volquez, and the next pitch is a little flare right to the shortstop Gordon, and we have 1 away. Over in Arizona, the Diamondbacks are leading the Rockies 1-0, bottom of the first inning. If the Dodgers thought that they were just going to cut the magic number to ribbons immediately, they were really mistaken. We've seen enough of these things in the middle of September on. It's never easy, and it's not going to be easy. I mean, if they don't pick up today, they'll go head-to-head with Arizona in Arizona. The pitch now to Hector Sanchez, switch hitting catcher. Sanchez has appeared briefly as a pinch hitter in the series, hitting .269, 3 home runs, 19 runs batted in. Swings and comes up empty, and the count 0-2. When the Dodgers go to Colorado, they will remember that they have beaten the Rockies 4 of 7 here. However, they've had to really battle to win 5 of 9 when Colorado comes here. And as far as Arizona is concerned, Arizona has given the Dodgers a bad time right here in front of their own fans. Arizona has beaten the Dodgers 6 out of 9. On the road, the Dodgers have won 4 out of 6. So the strike 2 pitch on the way, swung on, lifted back a third down the line. Gordon is calling, but here comes Hairston to make the catch. So Sanchez, a fly ball to shallow left, 2 down. And Brandon Crawford, the left-hand hitting shortstop, coming up. Brandon hitting .257, 9 home runs, 42 runs batted in. Crawford in last night's game was 0 for 4, did have a walk, and then young Adrianza took over at short and doubled. Crawford did not play in the previous game and did start in game 1. Swings, doesn't get it, and the count 0-1. Crawford in game 1, 0 for 4, struck out twice. So the former Bruin from UCLA up there with 2 down, second inning, and the Giants leading 1-0. Strike 1 pitch on the way is taken for a strike, so Crawford's in a hole, 0-2. So the Giants have not only won 8 of the 15 against the Dodgers, they're trying to split 10 games here. They've won 4 and lost 5, and Bochy's club out in front. Back comes Volquez, and that's swung on and fouled back, and the count remains 0-2. Giants and Dodgers in the 16th meeting. Volquez looks over the fingertips, gets a sign into the windup. Strike 2 pitch is swung on and missed, and down goes Brandon Crawford. So the Giants, led by Hunter Pence, pick up a run as Pence hits one out. And at the end of an inning and a half, 1-0 Giants. With the purchase of 2014 season tickets. To learn more, visit Dodgers.com/season tickets or call a season ticket representative today at 323-DODGERS. Bottom of the second inning, Skip Schumacher, Jerry Hairston, and then A.J. Ellis, and right-hander Ryan Vogelsong going to work. Ryan turns ready and makes his pitch. Schumacher takes off the plate, ball 1. 1-0 the count. Schumacher, a fine outfield, a good man to have on the club, and having a solid year, hitting .272. 2 home runs, 29 runs batted in. Swings, grounds one that hits first base, goes in the air over the head of Brandon Belt, and it's a base hit for Skip Schumacher. So Schumacher, a base hit off the bag, and Jerry Hairston will be coming up.
Left fielder, number 6, Jerry Hairston Jr.
High bouncer Belt, who is 6'5", still couldn't reach up to catch it. Had to go out into shallow right field to pick it up. So Schumacher's aboard, and Hairston checks in. Jerry Hairston hitting .231. 2 home runs, 22 runs batted in. Had one at bat last night, hit into a double play. 2 home runs, 22 ribbies, and starting in left field. The Dodger outfield, Hairston, Schumacher, and the rookie Nick Buss. And the run of Schumacher goes, and the first pitch fouled away. So the Dodgers put hit and run on immediately. No balls and 1 strike. Ryan Vogelsong, the walk on a touchdown as an infielder who became a major league pitcher, among other things, pitched for 3 years in Japan. There were 2 American players, Jeff Williams, Andy Sheets, and they really helped break him in over there. So he lived very happy for 3 years in Japan. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Ryan delivers. Full swing foul ball, and the count 0-2. However, in the 3rd year of his stay in Japan, his wife became pregnant with their first child, so they decided to return to the United States. In March of this year, Vogelsong pitched for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. So Ryan looks in, getting a sign. 6'4", 215, 36 years old, and the pitch is high. 1-2 the count. Ryan Vogelsong figured prominently in a deal. The Pirates had him for a few years. Who did they send to San Francisco? Only Jason Schmidt. Wow. And then the Giants got him back. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Vogelsong ready. Hairston waits and fouls it off to the right out of play. A.J. Ellis on deck. Vogelsong has done reasonably well here at Dodger Stadium. This would be his 7th appearance and his 4th start here, and he is 2-1 with a good ERA of 3.2. This is his 10th career start, and over the previous 9, his earned run average was 3. So he's tough. The 1-2 pitch is swung on, lifted to the right side. Coming in for it is Hunter Pence. He's there to make the catch. Schumacher, with nowhere to go, has to hold on, and the batter will be A.J. Ellis.
Catcher number 17, A.J.
Arizona leading right at the start against Colorado. When you look at the National League West, it's hard to believe that the Giants would finish last. They're in a 3-way tie right now with Colorado and San Diego. All 3 teams are 18.5 back, and at least in their games against the Dodgers, the Giants are far better than San Diego and Colorado. So the chances are it will not happen, that which has happened only 3 times, where the Dodgers finished first and the Giants finished last. 1900, 1985, and 1995. So A.J. waiting, Vogelsong set, lanky right-hander works it off the plate. So he's behind now. Ellis backs out. Usually A.J. gets deep in the count. He's a reasonable contact hitter. Maybe not like Marco Scutaro, but they can put a play on with him. The rookie, Nick Chili Buss, on deck. 1-0 pitch on the way. Ellis takes a strike, and the count 1-1. And again, A.J. backs out, looking at Tim Wallach. Long look at Wallach before getting back up. Giants lead 1-0. That man Pence again, homered, leading off the 2nd inning. So the Giants 1, Dodgers nothing. Schumacher with a base hit is at first. There he goes. Got a good jump. Ground ball to the right side. The only play is to first. So Schumacher with the jump took him out of a possible double play. Ellis, the contact hitter, grounds out. And the Dodgers have the tying run at second base. 2 out. And the rookie Nick Buss coming up. Nick arrived last night and picked up a base hit and his first major league hit. He's from Southfield, Michigan, and went to USC. His middle name, the nickname is really what it is Chili. And everybody wanted to know, where did Chili come from? Vogelsong out of a stretch and then backs off the rubber. The story is that there are 3 bus children with normal middle names, and when Nick came along, his dad was playing in a charity golf tournament with former major leaguer Chili Davis. He liked the name Chili, and that's how Nick got the middle name, as the story goes. Chili Davis played for the Giants from 1981 through 1987. He also played for the Angels. Vogelsong ready, and the pitch to Nick Buss swung on, pulled on the ground to Scutaro, who's on the grass to throw him out. So the Dodgers waste the leadoff single by Schumacher, and at the end of 2, it's 1-0 Giants. Perez, then the pitcher Ryan Vogelsong, and the center fielder Gregor Blanco. I have a good friend. He's a wonderful sports writer for the Detroit Free Press. His name is John Lowe, and day in and day out, he not only writes interesting baseball stories covering the Tigers, but about once a week or so he'll also write a column, and it is invariably something that really piques your curiosity. He had one recently about how amazing this game is, and as a point, he talked about Wednesday night in Boston when the Tigers were playing the Boston Red Sox. We'll talk about it as Juan Perez checks in and takes ball 1. During that game, right fielder Torrey Hunter fielded a line drive double that was the 2000th big league hit for David Ortiz. 1-0 pitch on the way. Perez swings, lifts it foul, 1-1 the count. Well, as it turned out after the game, Torrey Hunter was saying, "That's amazing. I can't believe it. David and I were teammates all the way through the minor leagues with the Twins. He cooked dinner all the time. He's one of my best buddies in the game." And Ortiz's 2000 hit is a double run down by Torrey Hunter. The 1-1 pitch on the way, a check swing, no swing, 2-1 the count. And then in Kansas City, and the Royals were playing, and Eric Hosmer, the first baseman, couldn't hold on to a low throw on a ball that was hit by Nick Castellanos, no relation to Alex. 2-1 pitch in for a strike. And Hosmer actually, and Castellanos, well, they played on the same high school team, the American Heritage School. They were state champions, good friendship. One 2 years ahead of the other, but they played from the 8th grade on. Their strike 3 call to Perez, 1 away. So it's amazing how 2 guys as kids play together wind up become professional ball players, work their way all the way up to the major leagues on different teams, and one gets a 2,000 hit involving the other. Baseball, just marvelous. So one away, Ryan Vogelsong, right-hand batter waiting. Volquez first pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Vogelsong has only 2 hits. He has struck out half the time. Right-hand batter takes in the dirt. 1 ball and 1 strike. Giants and Dodgers. Top of the third, 1 away. Edinson Volquez going up against Ryan Vogelsong. The 1-1 pitch on the way to Vogelsong, swung on and missed. 1-2. The only run in the game, Hunter Pence. He hit that home run leading off the 2nd inning. Outfield shaded to right. Bus up a few steps and the pitch a little low. 2-2 the count. They don't expect Vogelsong to do much damage. They do give him sizable gap in left center because Schumacher plays him towards right. Hairston doesn't believe he can pull, so he's way off the line, giving him straightaway left field. 2-2 pitch on the way, and Vogelsong swings, fouls it back. 2-2. Yeah, Ryan was starting. Everything was okay in the beginning of the year. Next thing you know, hit by a pitch, fractured right hand, surgery, missing 69 games. 2-2 pitch on the way. Swung on, fouled away. Interesting too, and I guess it always seems to happen that way. Vogelsong was pitching very well. In fact, he had his best outing of the season. He had pitched 5 scoreless innings, allowing only 3 hits against the Nationals' Craig Stammen, and Stammen hit him on the hand, and the whole year blew up. Curveball drops in nicely for strike 3. That is not only the 3rd strikeout for Volquez, it's the 3rd consecutive strikeout. And the batter now will be Gregor Blanco, who hit a long fly ball to center. Skip Schumacher did a fine play, turned his back to home plate, went all the way to the track, turned around and caught the ball, fighting the sun. And he was probably 4 or 5 feet from the center field wall when he got his glove on it. Good play. Skip, like all the outfielders, wearing the shades, the sunglasses. Blanco runs up as if to bunt, takes low, ball 1. Uribe's playing him on the edge of the grass. Blanco hitting .265, 2 home runs, 36 runs batted in. Giants lead 1-0, top of the 3rd. Volquez over the top, misses off the plate, and he's behind. 2 balls and no strikes. So the Giants go to New York. They'll play the Mets and the Yankees, and the Dodgers go to Arizona, San Diego, and San Francisco, and then come home to finish up the regular season against Colorado. 2-0 pitch on the way, swung on, whacked on a line into right. Bus over to play it on a hop. Nick gets it back in. So the 2-out single by Blanco will bring up Marco Scutaro.
Number 19, Marco Scutaro.
Giants have made some good acquisitions of late, but I think if you talk to management, they would tell you Scutaro has really been a blessing. Hitting a solid .298 coming in. Scutaro is the toughest man in the league to strike out. He averages 1 strike every something like 16 and a half at bats. And of course had a magnificent year for the Giants last year. Scutaro, among other things last year, well, he was the MVP in the league championship series. Marco's from Venezuela but lives in Miami. Was originally signed by the Indians. So Scutaro waiting. Little unusual stance, not quite as severe as Jeff Bagwell, but if you followed Bagwell at all, Bags as they called him, you look at Scutaro and it would make you think of Jeff. He's bent at the knees, stiff back. It almost looks like he's about ready to sit down in a chair. Bagwell looked like he was sitting in the chair. Scutaro spread eagled at the plate, feet far apart. And the strike one pitch on the way is taken high. He ducks under it. And the count, 1 ball and 1 strike. Scutaro last year just burned his name into the Dodger memory book. He hit .366 against the Dodgers last year with 26 hits. He had 9 multi-hit games. And in the Giants' August sweep of the Dodgers here at Dodger Stadium last year, all he did was go 6 for 13. 1-1 pitch on the way. Scutaro swings, doesn't get it. 1-2. Manny's the pitcher who has gotten 2 strikes on Scutaro, but it's another story to sit him down. Scutaro has struck out all of 33 times and way over 550 plate appearances. One ball and 2 strikes. Volquez backs off the rubber with Blanco over there at first base. Blanco has stolen 12, but he's also been caught 9 times. 1-0 Giants. 2 out, top of the 3rd. Volquez taking a little extra time, so Scutaro backs out. Blanco holding at first. Marco is 5'10", 185. He'll be 38 years old in October. He's been playing a long time. Broke in with Buffalo in 1999. The 1-2 pitch very high, and the count 2-2. Last year, to point up how tough he is to strike out, he had 71 at-bats against the Dodgers, and he struck out all of 4 times. So he's really handy. I mean, it's one thing to talk about, yeah, this fella's a good contact hitter. Contact, heck, he hit .362 last year. He's hitting right around .300 all year this year. Now, that's really a contact hitter. Deuce is wild here with 2 out. Blanco at first. He's holding. The pitch to Scutaro is a chopper foul, and the count remains 2-2. When Marco Scutaro won the MVP last year in the league championship series, all he did was hit .500. He had 3 doubles, 4 RBIs, scored 6. He went 14 for 28. Quite a player. Though Marco back up, tired of waiting, and backs out. Marco and Mark Ellis were teammates with the Oakland A's, although Marco first came up with the New York Mets. Then the A's, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, the Rockies. How the Rockies ever let him go is just startling. There goes Blanco. The pitch low and dropped by A.J. Ellis. So Blanco steals his 13th, and the count goes all the way to Marco Scutaro. So the Giants lead 1-0 on Hunter Penn's home run. Now they run Blanco. The Giants have not been a running team. That's only their 63rd stolen base. One thing about the Giants this year, if you had to sum up one big reason why they're last, is the fact they have been a very, very poor defensive team. Bruce, grown old, watching his club commit 97 errors. 3-2 pitch now to Marco Scutaro, and it's in there. Called strike 3. Scutaro was on his way to first base holding the bat. He's not about to argue. So there it is, rarer than a day in June. A strikeout of Scutaro, and it's 1-0 San Francisco. The Pens lead 1-0. And a reminder, the Dodgers and Rockies, Saturday, September 28th. The first 40,000 fans in attendance receive their own Dodgers sleeved blanket. Compliments of our friends at Farmer John. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion. Nick Noonan has taken over at second base for Marco Scutaro. That'll teach him to strike out, huh? So Noonan, the rookie, will take over for the veteran. Nick Noonan went last night at second base. Wound up with a couple of singles and a walk. So Noonan at second base. Scutaro retires for the day. And the Dodgers now have Volquez, Gordon, and Ellis in that order. And the first pitch in for a strike. Volquez, by the way, had to work a little harder. He made 22 pitches, so he's made 46 pitches in the game. Vogelsong comes back 0-1, waved at and missed. 0-2 the count to Edinson. Volquez, whose dad was a mechanic, his mom a teacher. He takes a look at one that misses the zone. His mom worked with the elderly at a hospital, and which reminds us the first ball today was thrown out by a youngster 105 years old, and he gave it the big "it's time for Dodger baseball." It was just wonderful and inspiring to see him. Big breaking ball stays high. The oldest man in the United States passed away yesterday. He was 112. 2 balls and 2 strikes the count. Volquez, Gordon, and Ellis. Vogelsong delivers and misses. Ball 3. So Hunter Pence continues his phenomenal hitting. He hit a home run in the second inning, and he'll be coming up in the 4th. Now the 3-2 pitch on the way, swung on, hit foul down the right field line, back into the stands. 87 degrees when the game started. Giants trying to win 3 out of 4, and the Dodgers desperate for a split. Check and see what's new with Arizona, Colorado. Arizona got a run right away, leading 1-0. Volquez slices one down the line, foul, out of play. Edison checking his bat. You look at that and you see that big 3-0. What do you think of? Yeah, sure, Maury Wills. And Volquez apparently chipped the bat, so he'll have to get another. And we have time to tell you the Diamondbacks are leading the Rockies 1-0. Ulysses Chacin is pitching that game for Colorado, and they're in the 3rd inning. 3-2 the count to Edinson, Volquez. 1-0 Giants. Vogelsong ready and delivers. Swung on and missed, and down he goes. So Volquez didn't have a bad at bat, however, to run it all the way 3-2. 1 down. That would be the first strikeout for Ryan Vogelsong. He's given up 2 hits. And the Dodger leadoff man, D. Gordon, coming up. The pitchers have tried to make the other pitcher work hard. When Vogelsong batted in the 3rd inning, he saw 7 pitches before he struck out. Volquez saw 8 pitches before he struck out. Meanwhile, Gordon shows bunt, takes ball 1. He had Sandoval very much on the run. The Pandas well in on the grass. Belt has not committed. In fact, he's actually back of the bag. The 1-0 pitch, Gordon a full swing line drive, but right at the center fielder Blanco, who was playing shallow. So Gordon a line drive out. 2 down in the 3rd. And Mark Ellis coming up. When the Giants come up in the 4th inning, Brandon Belt and Hunter Pence back to back. And we'll tell you a story about those two, and then the somewhat surprising result last night, where we told you that Pence had 7 RBIs and Belt had 6. Vogelsong ready and delivers, and the pitch in for a strike. 0-1. Ellis double to left in the first inning. The Giants, and every ball club will do it for each player, both Brandon Belt and Hunter Pence asked the Giants to put together some videotape. Mark Ellis has just fouled it off 0-2. They asked him to put videotape of just their home runs. All the home runs on videotape, put them all together. One for Hunter Pence, one for Brandon Belt. And the players call it the Dig Me video. In other words, look how good I am. Look at my videotape of all my home runs. Here's the strike 2 pitch to Ellis, fouled away. So last night, Belt and Pence were taking batting practice. One hits before the other. And Pence, teasing Belt, said something to the effect, you know, it's about time you hit a home run. And Pence then got the return answer from Belt, well, you know what, it's your time to hit a home run. They got talking about the Dig Me tape, etc. So they both went back to the clubhouse and looked at the so-called Dig Me tape. And then the game began. Belt's first at bat last night was a single. Pence's first at bat was a single. But then they got warming up, and it wasn't only a Dig Me tape. They each added to the tape. Pence, of course, with a grand slam home run. There's a line drive base hit into left field, a somersault by Brandon Crawford, but he came up empty. So a 2-out line drive single. Mark Ellis is 2 for 2, and Adrian Gonzalez coming up. Giants lead 1-0. So a little good-natured ribbing at the batting cage, resulting in a little study of videotape, and voila. Hunter Pence had 7 RBIs. Brandon Belt had 6 RBIs. Pretty good idea. One egging the other on. So the batter now, Adrian Gonzalez, came up with Ellis at second in the first inning and flied to right. 0 for 1. Adrian looks at a pitch off the plate, ball 1. Gonzalez with 92 runs batted in. He's the big butter and egg man for the Dodgers, and he does deliver. 1 ball and no strikes. Outfield deep, split, the gap in right center. Adrian takes low. 2-0 the count. Gonzalez in last night's game had a couple of base hits. In the game before he didn't start, Michael Young played first base. And of course, Adrian was the hero in the 10th inning of a single up the middle to score Carl Crawford and give the Dodgers a tough 3-2 win in 10 innings. Well, Arizona has opened it up a little bit more. They lead Colorado 3-0. And Paul Goldschmidt just hit a long home run way over the center field wall with a man on. Goldie is really something. He has now knocked in all 3 runs to give him 112. 2-1 pitch is lined to right field, but Pence is there to glove it. So Gonzalez hits it hard, but right at the right fielder. The Dodgers leave Ellis, and at the end of 3, 1-0 San Francisco. Fox Sports Live, the sports and highlight show you've been waiting for, is here. Fox Sports Live airing nightly on Fox Sports 1. Fourth inning, and here they come. Brandon Belt and Hunter Pence and Pablo Sandoval. Brandon Belt hitting .289, 16 home runs, 62 runs batted in. Hunter Pence hitting .294, 24 home runs and 90 runs batted in. You talk about a 1-2 punch. Here's the left hook followed by the right cross. Change high, ball one, 1-0. So Brandon Belt finally listened, finally dropped his hands, and look out now. 1-0 the count. That's a strike. Of course, it's hard to change a fellow who has made it to the big leagues. I mean, psychologically, he wants to say, hey, I want to stay with what got me here. Some of them are very, very reluctant students, to say the least. 1-1. Hard foul. 1-2. So you have Belt and Pill, two big first basemen. Pill played one game. Brandon Belt, he's from Nacogdoches in Texas. Clayton Kershaw remembers pitching against him in Texas as kids. And he said even then he knew that this big guy was going to be a good ball player. 2-2. Brandon Belt, with all of it, started in 2009, signed blade out of the University of Texas. Swings, doesn't get it, and down he goes. So Volquez picks up his 5th strikeout. He struck out the side in the 3rd inning. And here's Hunter Pence. Pence homered in the 2nd inning. We get a report on why Marco Scutaro came out. Lower back tightness. So the veteran will rest on his laurels, as well he should. Noonan is finishing up for him, and Hunter Pence takes a strike. By the way, in talking about Clayton Kershaw, saying what a good young hitter Brandon Belt was when they were kids in Texas, the logical question then is, how has Belt done against Kershaw in the big leagues? Well, he is 3 for 27. So Clayton struck him out 14 times, and Belt is hitting 111 against Clayton. 1-1 the count to Hunter Pence. Strike. You know, last night, the 4th time that a pair of Giants had at least 6 RBIs in a game. Pence had 7 last night. Jimmy O'Connell and Ross Youngs in 1923. Phil Weintraub and Ernie Lombardi in 1944. That was in a win over the Dodgers, interestingly enough, at the Polo Grounds. Will Clark and Rick Parker had 6 in 1990. And then, of course, Pence and Belt together had 13 last night. In the dugout, cooling off, if nothing else, Brandon Belt, while Pence tries to continue the war. Hunter Pence has homered in 4 straight games. That's 2 shy of the Giant record. Who do you think homered in 6 straight games for the Giants? Sure, Willie Mays, who, by the way, hit 98 home runs against the Dodgers in his career. 98. Three and 2 to Hunter Pence. Big bouncer, back of third. Oh, what a pick by Uribe. Wow. Boy, you talk about Gold Glove at third base. He has been absolutely marvelous. Wow, what a play. I mean, running across, backhanding on the dead run, short hopping, throwing in foul ground, and Pence runs well. I mean, you're throwing out a guy who has stolen 21 bases. What a play by Uribe, and how he can throw on the money, backing way out into foul ground. That was really a truly remarkable play. 2 down. And it wasn't close. I mean, Pence was out by about 4 or 5 feet. Sandoval fouls it off. And you can see Volquez pointing, thank you so much for that play. 0-1. Juan Uribe coming out of nowhere to be a true Gold Glove candidate. Sandoval popped up his at bat. He's 0 for 1. I was talking about Willie Mays before. The fact that he had 98 home runs against the Dodgers in his career. He hit 56 against the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had 41 against the Brooklyn Dodgers. And he hit 1 against the Dodgers at the end of his career when he was with the New York Mets. Willie Mays. They will debate forever who was better, Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays. 2-1 pitch on the way. Foul back. One big difference between the two teams. First of all, Mickey Mantle played 18 years. I think Mays played 22. But the biggest difference, and it really is a difference, Mickey Mantle walked over 100 times, 10 years, 10 times. Mays walked over 100 once. 2 balls, 2 strikes. If you go with all of the new stats, and I don't understand any of them, I stay with the simple ones for the simple mind. Home runs, runs batted in, and batting average. But if you really get into hits and walks and innings pitched and all the other different things they have, Mantle would win statistically. 3-2. Not by much, but he would still win. Trying to remember, with all of the machinations in arithmetic, I think Mays in his career hit 298 and Mantle hit like 302, just a few points separating. Let's put it this way, they were worth the price of admission. 3 balls, 2 strikes. High fly ball towering down the left field line. Hairston, sunglasses glistening, and makes the catch. So Sandoval is retired. The Giants go 1-2-3. Take another look at the Uribe play. It was really remarkable for a whole bunch of reasons. And at the end of 3.5, it's still 1-0 Giants. is brought to you by Farmer Boys. Get an award-winning Farmer's Burger topped with farm-fresh veggies, cheese, bacon, and avocado. By Chase. Send money to almost anyone, anywhere with your smartphone. Chase Quick Pay, so you can. And by El Pollo Loco. Crazy you can taste. We have worked our way to the bottom of the fourth inning. It's 1-0 Giants. Home run by Hunter Pence leading off the second inning. Edinson Volquez going up against Ryan Vogelsong. Juan Uribe grounded to short. He's 0 for 1. Uribe at 34. Absolutely a remarkable defensive third baseman. Who knew? And ball one. You know, we mentioned earlier that Paul Goldschmidt has driven in all 3 runs for Arizona. He has 112 runs batted in to lead the league. And we're going to see Goldie starting tomorrow night. All Paul Goldschmidt is doing this year against the Dodgers, he's hitting .379. He has 4 home runs, 16 runs batted in. In Goldschmidt's career against the Dodgers, 7 home runs, 27 runs batted in, hitting .336. The 2-0 pitch, and Uribe gets a hold of it. A long fly ball to center at the wall and gone. In straightaway center field. It hits the top, bounces back on the field. Uribe is into third and will have a stand-up triple. The ball hit the very top of the fence. It looked like it was going out, and then it kicked back in towards the infield. So the Dodgers are 90 feet away from tying up the game, and Juan Uribe has a triple. Don Mattingly is going out to talk to the second base umpire, Dan Iasonia. It looked like, and I'm sure to Mattingly it looked like, the ball cleared the fence. Then it came back. The 4 umpires are now going to look at the video screen. You know what's really unfair? I mean, baseball has a lot of money, of course. And yet the umpires are going to go down below and look at a little screen. Here's a look from our monitor. It goes up and I don't know what it hit. Looked like it hit the very, very top of the wall right there. So, okay, they will be looking at a much smaller monitor than the one that we have. And that's the point we wanted to make, that they put all the pressure on the umpires to check the monitor, but they don't really give them the biggest monitor. And that's one reason why baseball's saying we ought to have a centralized person in New York with the greatest monitor, high definition, whatever, and let him make the call. But meanwhile, the umpires are down below, and after we've looked at it, they will be calling it a triple. I will say, for one split second when we said gone, we thought it had cleared the wall, but it didn't. So Uribe opens up with a triple. The umpires are still looking, but I am sure they will agree with our camera work. And in a moment they'll come back. So a triple by Uribe, and then Schumacher and Hairston. Here they come. And Uribe will stay at third base. We can take one more look. It was this close. Actually, in watching Blanco, he went up long before the ball got there, and his glove wasn't really close to the ball. Of course, Blanco is not a big man. If he were, as big as Puig, let's say, he might have caught it. Anyway, Uribe's at third, nobody out. Schumacher, Hairston, and Ellis trying to pick him up. And 1 ball and no strikes. Good game, 1-0 Giants on a home run by Pence. And the Dodgers trying to tie it. Don't forget the magic number. Maybe you're sick and tired of it, but it's a part of the story. The number is 4. If the Dodgers win, they will lop it to 3. And then whether it changes from 3 depends upon Arizona. But first of all, the Dodgers have to find a way to win. Schumacher single, ground ball that actually hit first base, kangarooed out into right field. That's a strike. 2-1 the count. So Juan Uribe just misses by inches. Instead, he has to wind up with his second triple. They're in the bottom of the 4th in Arizona. Diamondbacks 3, Rockies nothing. 2-1. Oh, good breaking ball. 2-2. To conclude the thoughts about Goldschmidt, whom we'll see tomorrow night. This year in Arizona, he has 1 home run, 9 RBIs, batting .303 against the Dodgers. Here, Dodger Stadium, Goldschmidt is 6 for 18. That's a .361 batting average. The pitch swung on and missed. That's a bad out for Schumacher, who doesn't strike out that often. So 1 out. Uribe still at third. And backing up on Goldschmidt at Dodger Stadium, he's not only hitting .361. He has 6 home runs and 18 runs batted in his career. So he is one big problem in front of the Dodgers, and they'll be looking at him tomorrow. All right, 1 out. Now the batter is Jerry Hairston. The infield is halfway. They're not up and they're not really back. And a strike, picks up the inside corner. Hairston a little unhappy on the call. 0-1 to Jerry. The Vogelsong picks up a big strikeout, getting Schumacher. That's only the second strikeout, and the other one is a pitcher. 0-1. And a little soft line drive to Crawford, and holding at third is Uribe. So the Dodger attack has really dropped off considerably for a couple of reasons. Dodgers were resting several of the starters. Then, of course, Ramirez went down. Then Ethier went down. But their run production has really been a struggle. I mean, you forget last night because the Giants scored 19, but the Dodgers only scored 3. And the game before, they scored 2. And the game before, they scored 3. And here they are. A runner at third, nobody out. 2 outs later, he's still there. A.J. Ellis grounds out, so he's 0 for 1. 1-0 Giants. Hunter Pence homered in the second inning. No balls, 1 strike. And a slicing foul ball down the right field line, back in amongst the customers. 0-2. So Vogelsong trying to wiggle off the hook here, and he's doing a pretty good job. Ryan 2-1 in his career at Dodger Stadium, and 4-3 lifetime against the Dodgers. 0-2. Ball 1. On deck, the rookie Nick Buss. One ball, 2 strikes. Just missed inside. Good pitch by Vogelsong, and they count 2-2. A.J. Ellis came into the game hitting .242. 7 home runs, 45 runs batted in. Schumacher couldn't do it. Hairston couldn't do it. They're looking at A.J. And he hits one to center, moving over his Blanco to one-handed. So the Dodgers get a leadoff triple by Juan Uribe, and they lead him. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. And at the end of 4, it's still 1-0 Giants. Thursday game in Arizona. That Thursday game is a 12:40 game. Then to San Diego for 3. Then a day off and 3 in San Francisco. Then the Dodgers will come home for the final 3 regular season games with the Colorado Rockies. Give you an idea what's going on so far in this series. Talking about runners in scoring position, you bring that up because the Dodgers left Uribe at third with nobody out. The Giants with runners in scoring position, and of course last night really swells the numbers in their way. But nevertheless, the Giants in the 3 previous games hitting .386 with 21 runs batted in. The Dodgers in the 3 previous games plus today are 3 for 28. That's a 107 batting average, and they've managed to collect 5 runs batted in. That's all. Leading off, Hector Sanchez, the catcher, flied to left. One nothing San Francisco. Leadoff home run by Hunter Pence in the 2nd inning. Pitch or strike. A little while ago we were, as my mother would say, chewing the fat about Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle. 1-1 pitch on the way. Whack down the right field line, going in the corner. Fair ball. Sanchez has to stop at first. Nice recovery out there by Nick Buss. Somebody who hasn't played right field here. Just played the carom, gunned it in. Sanchez held with a long single. And the batter will be Brandon Crawford. If you're talking to youngsters and they say, what's all the fuss about Willie Mays? Well, we can tell you, among other things, Willie had 660 home runs. He had 1,903 runs batted in. He hit .302. He had 338 stolen bases, and the Giant clubs in those days, they didn't run. If they ran Mays, I don't know how many stolen bases he would have had. He struck out 100 times in a season once, and that was when he was 40 years old in 1971. Willie Mays. 1 ball, no strikes. Off the plate, Mickey Mantle, 18 years, 536 home runs. So Willie hit 124 more home runs than Mantle. Mickey hit 298. Mays 302. 1 ball, 1 strike. Slice drive to left field. Hairston going back and picks it off. So Crawford a fly ball, 1 down. Holding at first is Sanchez. Juan Perez coming up. Mantle had bad wheels, as the players used to say. So where Mantle stole 153, Mays 338. Anyway, it's always a fun discussion to match them up. One out. Perez struck out. 0 for 1. And first ball swinging, lifts a fly ball. Settling under it is Schumacher. 2 down, and the batter will be Ryan Vogelsong.
Ryan Vogelsong.
Vogelsong had a 7-pitch at bat in the 3rd inning before striking out. One nothing Giants. Hunter Pence led off the 2nd inning with a home run. In the 4th inning, Juan Uribe led off with a triple that just missed going out, and the Dodgers left him. That's a foul ball down the line. What's latest out of Arizona? D-backs 6, Rockies nothing. So it looks like the best the Dodgers can do, and they'll need their best, is to beat the Giants. And the Giants are leading 1-0. So they're going to the 5th inning in Arizona. 0-1. Check swing for a strike. No balls, 2 strikes. Oh, and 2 out. Sanchez at first. And that will do it. Vogelsong strikes out a 2nd time. 6 strikeouts for Edinson Volquez. And at the end of 4.5, it's still 1-0 San Francisco. Inning, the Dodgers will have Nick Buss, then Edinson Volquez, and D. Gordon. By the way, We were talking earlier about Paul Goldschmidt and how he wears out the Dodgers. Well, he is certainly getting ready for the Dodgers for tomorrow night. He has played 4 innings in Arizona. Goldschmidt has driven in 5 runs. He already has a single, a double, and a home run. So he needs a triple to hit for the cycle. And with his 5 RBIs today, Goldschmidt now leads the National League in RBIs with 114. So we will see Goldschmidt in the best Arizona has tomorrow night. For the Dodgers, the responsibility of opening up a big series will go to Hyun-Jin Ryu. Then it'll be Zach Greinke, then Clayton Kershaw. Dodgers trying desperately to get something started. They've had 1 hit in each inning in the first 4. Ellis doubled, they left him. Schumacher singled, reached second, they left him. Ellis singled, but then the killer, Uribe, tripled, opening up the inning. Ground ball, nice play by Belt, close play at first, but down goes Buss. 3-1 if you're scoring, 1 away.
Pitcher number 30.
Say, friends, you can now secure postseason tickets with a purchase of 2014 season tickets. To learn more, visit Dodgers.com/season tickets or give us a call. Talk to a season ticket representative today at 323-DODGERS. We will repeat again what the Dodgers have done. They've lost 6 of 9 here against Arizona. They've managed to win 4 of 6 in Arizona. So Arizona has an edge, 8-7, and the big one's coming up. Crack bat, little flare, 1 hopper, tricky hop, no play by Crawford, throw to first, not in time. You could hear the bat crack up here, and there had to be a lot of pool hall English on it. It looked like a routine play. It landed in front of Brandon Crawford, and then like a runaway gyroscope, it went the other way. And Volquez gets a squib single with 1 out. So the Dodgers continue to get 1 hit every inning, but they're still shut down 1-0. Here's D. Gordon, hit back to the box, lined out to center. D playing shortstop, 0 for 2. Hitting .222. Sandoval protecting against the bunt. Belt is up in front of Volquez. Ball 1 to Gordon. Giants 1 run, 3 hits. Dodgers no runs, 5 hits. 2-0. Hitting back of Gordon is Mark Ellis, who is 2 for 2 today with a double and a single. So Mark waiting for something good to happen on the base paths. 2-0 to D. Gordon. 2-1. Two balls, 1 strike. And ball 3. Brandon Belt at first base is behind Volquez, not holding him on. Volquez not going on strike 2. So with a full count and 1 down, Gordon has not grounded into a double play. Of course, he hasn't played a lot. This would be his 31st game. So we'll see what that means about Volquez. Doubtful he would run him. He's not going. Ground ball to the hole. Base hit to left field. Down to second base goes Volquez. So D. Gordon comes up with a single to left. Dodgers at first and second, and Mark Ellis coming up. Of course, the Dodgers would love to switch the runners. They would much rather have Gordon the front man. They're not going to score Volquez, it would not appear, on a clean base hit. And talking about clean, Crawford is anything but making a headfirst dive, but he couldn't smother the ball. So 2 on, 1 out. Dodgers with 6 hits and nothing to show for it against Ryan Vogelsong. Ellis double a left, single a left. 1-0 Giants. Dodgers have 2 on, 1 out, 5th inning. Turned him around and hit him. The last thing in the world that Vogelsong wanted to do. Not only does he hit Ellis, the bases are loaded for Adrian Gonzalez, and we shall see what develops now. So Ellis to first, Gordon to second, Volquez the tying run to third. Dave Righetti coming out to talk to Vogelsong. Adrian Gonzalez flied to right and lined out to right. And looking at the record for Ryan Vogelsong and Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian Gonzalez coming into the game was 0 for 3. So he's 0 for 5 in his career against Ryan Vogelsong. Righetti has had his chat, and now we will see. It's 1-0 Giants. Dodgers have the bases loaded with 1 out. Volquez, Gordon, and Ellis all out there. And Gonzalez at the plate. Fouled away off to the left. 0-1 the count. Guillermo Mosco is warming up in the Giant bullpen. There he is, the right-hander. Dodgers trying desperately to break through, thoroughly frustrated when they left Juan Uribe, who tripled with nobody out. Now they have the bases loaded with 1 out. They have not hit a lick. They have only 5 RBIs in 4 games with runners in scoring position, and a high foul off to the left. That's out of play. We'll repeat, the Dodgers so far with runners in scoring position in this series, collectively they are batting 107 with 5 runs batted in. Meanwhile, a pinch hit 2-run home run by Charlie Culberson of the Rockies in the top of the 5th inning. That gets the Rockies on the board. Arizona 6, Colorado 2, top of the 5th. 0-2 to Adrian. Fly to right, lined out to right. Time. Sanchez going out to talk to Vogelsong. Maybe they weren't on the same page. I'm sure it's a big comfort when you're pitching in a tough spot. You look in, get a signal, and you both agree. And a little disquieting when you look in and it's not the pitch you want to give. 0-2. And ball 1. In the inning, Volquez cracked his bat, chewed a ball behind second base, took a tricky hop, went for a base hit. Gordon slapped the ground ball single just by a diving Brandon Crawford, and then Ellis came up and he was hit by a pitch. So the Dodgers loading the bases, and the 1-2 pitch to Adrian Gonzalez way off the plate. We were talking earlier about it. The Dodgers would like to switch the runners. They would rather have Gordon in front of Volquez. Now, of course, it's an ideal spot. Volquez only 90 feet away, and a guy with wings on his shoes, Gordon at second base. 2-2 the count to Adrian Gonzalez. 1-0 Giants. Bottom of the fifth. And a foul ball down the left field line, out of play. Adrian Gonzalez, in his long and illustrious career, has 4 grand slams. The last one he hit 3 years ago against Arizona. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Big pitch for Vogelsong, 2-2. A line drive down the right field line. In comes Volquez. In comes D. Gordon. In comes Mark Ellis on a double by Gonzalez, and the Dodgers have turned it around and lead 3-1. A bases clearing double. So that lightens up the mood, loosens up the bench. That's a huge hit for Adrian Gonzalez, but of course he's had so many of them this year. He picks up 3 RBIs to give him 95. So that was a huge at bat for Adrian. Now trying to pick him up, Juan Uribe. Off speed, slow breaking ball for a strike. 0-1. Dodgers lead 3-1. Uribe is 1 for 2. That wasted triple. And in fact, it led off the inning, and the Dodgers left him at third. Still only 1 out. And check swing, and it hits the bat, and the count 0-2. So a squirrely ground ball hit by Volquez for a base hit. Ground ball into left field by Gordon. Ellis hit by the pitch, and the line drive double down the right field line by Gonzalez to chase everybody home. Remember, Gonzalez was behind in the count at one time, 0-2, and on the 6th pitch of his at bat came up with that clutch double. So a fella has had so many big hits in his career, I'm sure he takes it instead. 1-2 the count. 2-2. When the Giants come up in the 6th inning, they'll have Blanco, Noonan, who's finishing up at second base for Scudero, and then Belt. And if anybody gets on, Boshi has his man Pence again. Two balls, 2 strikes. And another unintentional foul ball. Uribe holding up. Case of the ball hitting the bat rather than the other way around. Still 2-2 to 1. Gonzalez at second. The breeze has picked up, blowing to right field from left. Ground ball. Gonzalez has to hold up. Crawford takes dead aim and throws out Uribe. 2 down. Skip Schumacher coming up.
Center fielder, number 55, Skip Schumacher.
Schumacher's ground ball hit first base. Bounced and kangarooed into right field for a base hit. Last time up with Uribe at third and nobody out, Schumacher struck out. And a strike. On deck, Jerry Hairston. So bases loaded, one out double by Adrian Gonzalez, chased home 3, and the Dodgers lead 3-1. And a little foul out of play. Well, I'm kind of happy for him. Matt Davidson, he's the kid from Yucaipa, and he made a start here, and you know he had relatives and friends. He plays for Arizona. He struck out 3 times and hit into a double play, and in all honesty, my heart kind of broke for him. Well, Matt Davidson hit his first major league home run in the 7th inning today, and Arizona leads Colorado 7-2. Line drive and a good catch, and that will do it as Schumacher goes out. However, the Dodgers get a big 3, and at the end of 5, 3-1 Dodgers. The Atlanta Braves before 47,000 at Dodger Stadium and became the first team in Major League history to draw 3 million fans. Today, they have had 3 straight sellouts against the Giants. Let's go back to this one. And the Dodgers take a 3-1 lead into the 6th inning. It'll be Blanco, Noonan, and Belt, and if anybody gets on, Hunter Pence. So Edinson Volquez, who started the rally with that squirrely ground ball and got a base hit, now trying to hold on to the lead. Blanco fly deep to center and single to right, and for good measure stole a base. Ball 1. Coming into the inning, Volquez had made 74 pitches. One ball, no strikes. Fouled away. The number 1 leadoff man for the Giants resting today so far. That would be Angel Pagan. Pagan, a terrific player, had an inside the park home run, hurt his hamstring, and then really did a number on the hamstring in rehab. So they lost him for close to 4 months. And then Pagan showed up after wearing out the Dodgers last year. He had 2 hits in the first game. He had a double in game 2. He had a double and a walk last night and angel rest. Meanwhile, Blanco, not thinking angelic thoughts, is called out on strikes. Check swing. We want to give you a little inspiration. See that gentleman right there? His name is Irving Peiken. He lives in Leisure World, Laguna Hills, celebrating his 105th birthday today. They tell us he works out daily in the gym, and he stood behind home plate, got on the microphone, and said, "It's time for Dodger baseball." God bless him. Although I guess he has, hasn't he? Well, here's Noonan, 0-1. Scutaro grounded out, struck out, which is really rare, and then had to leave. Tightness in his lower back. So Nick Noonan finishing up for him. And a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Noonan started last night's game, finished up with a walk and 2 singles. Way off the plate. Noonan from Poway, lives in San Diego, went to Parker High School in San Diego. First round pick by the Giants. 2-1. Ball 3. Nick is 6'1", 185. 24 years old. Who is his hero and his role model? He picked a good one. Derek Jeter. He was going to go to Clemson, but the Giants signed him for a big bonus. And a soft line drive right at Adrian Gonzalez. 2 out in the 6th inning, and now here they come. Brandon Belt followed by Hunter Pence. Belt is 0 for 2, grounded and struck out. Pence has homered and lost a hit on a fine play by Juan Uribe. And hard hopper threw into right field. So look out as Belt singles to right. And that'll bring up Pence.
Number 8, Hunter Pence.
4 hits given up. That's all so far by Edinson Volquez. But Pence, a one-man band, has homered, grounded out hard. Honeycutt on the phone to the pen, but there isn't anybody throwing. He's requesting somebody to get up. So here's the amazing Pence. He is leading, or was leading, RBIs, but Paul Goldschmidt has 5 so far today, so Goldie's out in front. In the dirt, gets away, and down to second goes Belt. So we'll assume wild pitch unless we hear otherwise. So a single and a wild pitch with 2 out, runner in scoring position, and Pence trying to pick him up. Volquez, by the way, has made 15 wild pitches. Trevor Cahill over in Arizona has made 17. J.P. Howell, who got an out last night, he was the only man to come out of the bullpen and do well. J.P.'s up. So that'll give us a little bit of a chance to talk about Hunter Pence. In the last 26 games, Pence is hitting .465 with runners in scoring position, and Belt is at second base. So in 26 games, Hunter Pence has 28 runs batted in. And if you carry over to last year, he has started 158 straight. That's the longest streak in the league and the 5th longest in the major leagues. The month of September, he has been on fire, hitting better than .400, 8 home runs, 23 RBIs in 15 games. So Volquez has his hands full here with Hunter Pence. Big boy constantly in motion out of Texas. 2-0. On deck, more trouble, Pablo Sandoval. Two balls and no strikes. Pence at 6'4", but he shortens up the strike zone. He bends a little bit at the waist and knees and chokes up on the bat. That's a strike. So Volquez really facing his first challenge. Runner at second, 2 out. 3-1 Dodgers, 6th inning. Brandon Belt single, takes second on the wild pitch. And a high fly ball to deep left field. That's going to wind up over the fence for the home run. Hunter Pence is unbelievable, and the game is tied 3-3. His second home run. So he has 3 RBIs today. He had 7 RBIs last night. That's 10 RBIs in the last whatever number of hours. Got a pitch up and hit it up and over. Coils and then releases and hits it out. And that's going to knock out Edinson Volquez. For Hunter Pence, in looking at his numbers, he now has 25 home runs. He has 92 runs batted in, and he has knocked the Dodgers on their ear, not to mention what he's done to Volquez. For Pence, 19 RBIs in 6 games. And we'll be back. High up the game 3-3. Couple of notes on exactly what he has done. In his last 6 games, he's hitting .520. He has 26 home runs, 19 runs batted in. 9 times in his career a 2-run home run. He now has 25 home runs. He had done that 3 times when he was with the Houston Astros. So 3-3, and Howell now will turn Sandoval around, and Pablo will bat right-handed. Sandoval's power is as a left-hander, which is why they turned him around. He has 13 home runs, 12 of them hitting left-handed. So J.P. Howell facing Sandoval. Volquez got the first 2 outs. Blanco struck out, Noonan lined out, and then Belt single to right, followed by Pence. 2-0. So it was 1-0 Giants, 1-0 Pence. Then the Dodgers got 3 to lead 3-1, and now Pence is right back to tie it up. Hitting after Sandoval is Hector Sanchez. 2 balls, no strikes. High pop fly. Adrian going down the line, reaching back to make the catch. That was not an easy play at all, but he made it. So that'll do it, but not before Hunter Pence had another at bat, and the amazing Mr. Pence has tied it up 3-3. To the bottom of the 6th. MLB.com at bat is celebrating 5 years as your #1 mobile app for live baseball. Available for iPhone, iPad, Android, BlackBerry 10, and Windows Phone 8. At Bat delivers Dodger baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, highlights, and much more. So text At Bat to 31826 or visit Dodgers.com for details. Edinson Volquez pitched so well until he ran into Hunter Pence twice, each time giving up a home run. So he comes out 5 2/3, 3 runs, 3 hits, made 87 pitches while striking out 7. But it didn't help him. And we go to the bottom half. Jerry Hairston with a strike, 0-1. Jerry is flied to right, line to short. He'll be followed by A.J. Ellis and then Nick Buss. 0-2 the count. The Giants, remember, had played 6 straight games that could have been decided by 1 run, and they got the extra run. Sure, a home run by Pence to win 4-2. Then last night they just pounded the Dodgers for Bruce Bochy 19-3 on 22 hits. Hairston trying to get something started. 0-2 the count to Jerry. And that's going to go down the line in the corner, foul. Still 0-2. A nice crowd. They have made one sound. That was when Adrian Gonzalez doubled home 3. Last night, if you hung around long enough, the crowd laughed. What did they laugh at? The Abbott and Costello videotape. Who's on first? Ground ball to Brandon Crawford. High throw. Nice pick by Belt. 1 away.
Dodger catcher number 17.
That'll bring up A.J. Ellis. Grounded to second. Fly to center. 0 for 2. Down in the Dodger bullpen, if they get down to the pitcher spot, they would hit for Howell. Brian Wilson begins to pitch. So here's A.J. 0 for 2. And ball 1. Ellis hitting .241. Hard ground ball to the hole. Nice pick by Crawford. Throws in time. Wow. Brandon Crawford, a wonderful shortstop, and just put it on display. So A.J. is thrown out almost from left field. 2 down here in the 6th inning. A dazzling display of how to play the position. Look at this. He actually seemed to juggle, almost dropped the ball, and still had enough arm to make the play. Right there. He had a kind of double grip. Still got him. So with 2 out in the 6th inning, Nick Buss coming up. On deck, Michael Young to bat for Howell if Buss can get aboard. He's grounded out twice to Scudero, who was then in the game, and to Belt. And a big chopper to Noonan. So Buss goes 0 for 3 as he taps out on 3 ground balls. A wonderful play by Brandon Crawford. And at the end of 6, a 3-3 tie. Think possible by CarMax. Start the search for your next car at CarMax. By Toyota's nationwide clearance event. Now you can save big on every Toyota car, truck, and SUV. The Dodgers and the Giants all tied 3-3 as we go to the 7th inning. 3 runs, 5 hits for the Giants, and 2 of those hits home runs by Hunter Pence. 1 with a man aboard to account for all 3. Meanwhile, Ryan Vogelsong has limited the Dodgers to 3. And we go to the 7th. Sanchez, Crawford, and Perez in that order. Vogelsong has made 91 pitches in his 6 innings. Ball one. Two of the hottest hitters, and we're not talking about Paul Goldschmidt, although we'll see him tomorrow night, and he's got 5 RBIs today. But the two hot streaks that certainly caught the headlines, Alfonso Soriano of the Yankees and Hunter Pence of the Giants. Soriano in 4 games in August had 18 runs batted in. Pence in 6 games in September has 19. 2-0. Ground ball wide of third. Uribe. So one third baseman takes care of another on the pop fly. Now Sanchez grounds out. Crawford coming up. 2 highlight plays today, certainly. Uribe made a dandy on Pence, and Crawford made a beauty on A.J. Ellis. So 1 away. Crawford has struck out, flied to left, 0 for 2. Brandon hitting .256. Bunts fouls it back, 0-1. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 7th inning, J.P. Howell is due to lead off. We've already seen Michael Young out on deck. So it'll be Howell or a hitter, then Gordon and Ellis. Gordon 1 for 3, scored a run on Adrian Gonzalez double, as did Mark Ellis, who was hit by a pitch. 1-1. J.P. Howell is in his 62nd game. So he's worked a bit, although not a lot of innings. 2-1 to count. 61 games, 57 innings. Two balls, 1 strike. 2-2. Crawford has struck out 89 times, trying to avoid number 90 with a 2-2 count. And ball 3. Jason Machi throwing down in the bullpen now. Machi, a right-hander. We have 1 out, 7th inning. 3-3 tie and a full count on Brandon Crawford. Ryan Vogelsong still in there. Volquez had to come out. And ball 4. So a 1-out walk to Crawford. Juan Perez will be coming up.
The fielder, number 2, Juan Perez.
You know how much feeling there is between the Giants and the Dodgers. There are similar feelings when the Yankees and the Red Sox get together. The Yankees are in Boston, and the Red Sox are going to honor Mariano Rivera tonight. The last time the great Yankee will visit Fenway Park. It was nice that we had him here. Meanwhile, with that walk to a left-hand batter, that means a frustrated Howell coming out. Dodgers are going to the pen again to Brian Wilson, and we'll be back. Brandon Crawford walks. That's all for the left-hander J.P. Howell. Now they bring in Brian Wilson. For 7 years, he was the #1 closer, and he's going to be facing Angel Pagan, batting for Juan Perez. When you look at his career, he saved 41, saved 38, saved 48, saved 36. So Wilson had a great career with the Giants, and now the Dodgers trying to use him to foil the Giants. So here's Pagan, and Buster Posey comes out on deck. So Boshi trying to make a move in a 3-3 tie. And a strike to Pagan. We were talking about Pagan earlier, the fact he had a double and a walk last night. He had a double the game before. The game before that, he had a couple of singles and a stolen base. He always plays well, especially against the Dodgers. A bluff at first by the runner in the pitch outside. So Crawford at first, a tiebreaker, 3-3. Pagan's the boy who had an inside the park home run and slid and hurt his leg, went to rehab and re-injured it seriously in Class A. He had to have surgery, and they lost him for almost 4 months. One ball and one strike. One and two. Brian Wilson, born in Winchester, Massachusetts, lives in Londonderry, New Hampshire. The beard and the mohawk underneath that cap. Went to school at LSU. That's where he was when the Giants found him and drafted him in the 3rd round. Just misses. 2-2. Wilson, 6'2", 205 pounds, 31 years old. His father spent 22 years in the Air Force. And ball 3. So the first thing you do under this condition, you check Brandon Crawford. He just has 1 stolen base, so he doesn't do a lot of running, hitting so low in the lineup. Then you check Pagan, who has only struck out 32 times in 61 games. Crawford goes, sure enough, line drive, foul. 3-2. Pagan, pretty good contact hitter, so they run Crawford with 1 out. Trying to also avoid the double play, they have Buster Posey on deck. Pagan has grounded into only 1 double play, so all of that goes into the mix for Boshi. 3-2. We'll watch Crawford. He goes, and ground ball. Gonzalez, good pick. They get 1. The throw back, not in time. Wilson pointing to his right foot to first base umpire Jerry Davis. So the play goes 3-6 from Adrian Gonzalez to D. Gordon. The return throw too late. Don Mattingly is out there to talk to the veteran umpire, the crew chief, the senior umpire of the quartet. Nice play by Adrian Gonzalez to get the ball accurately down there. The return throw late. We say accurately because you watch Crawford running, and he's going to throw that left arm high in the air. Anything to distract Gordon. So 2 out. Johnny Mornell, a catcher, is going to come up. Buster Posey will go put back in the deck. They'll save that card to be played later on. So Mornell with Pagan at first. 3-3, 2 out, 7th inning. Boy, Wilson really holding time. He knows Pagan runs very well when he's healthy. Pagan has stolen 9 bases. Johnny Monell appeared last night. Like everybody else, James had a base hit. Fouls that, 0-1. He singled to right field in the 8th inning. Johnny's from Giant territory. Oh, and 1. That's a little low. 1 ball and 1 strike. He's made the usual stops: Salem, Augusta, Fresno, San Jose, Richmond, Fresno again. He's from the Bronx in New York. Grew up in Florida. 1 ball and 1 strike. Foul ball out of play. Johnny's a chip off the old block. His father was an outfielder. Got as high as AAA in the Mets system. Then moved on and played in Taiwan and also several independent leagues. All in all, Johnny's father spent 17 years on 3 continents, including Mexico, Puerto Rico, besides Taiwan. So Johnny followed his father around. Among other things, got to soft toss with Jim Thome in Puerto Rico. Foul back. You may remember the Cubs catcher Hector Villanueva. He was the first one to suggest to Johnny that he ought to be a catcher. John was drafted by the Giants and turned them down when he was coming out of high school. Went to Seminole, Florida Community College. The Mets wanted him. He turned them down. And finally, in 07, signed with San Francisco. We're in the 7th. Pagan at first in a 3-3 tie. 2 out. 2-2. The Dodgers figured a hit for Brian Wilson in the bottom of the 7th. They have Paco Rodriguez up in the pen. The Giants have the left-hand hitting Nick Noonan on deck. Two and 2 as Pagan held on by Adrian Gonzalez. Just missed. So Brian goes 3-2. That's an edge for the Giants. Angel Pagan will be going with the full count and 2 down. Three and 2. There goes the runner, and it's foul back. So Pagan will wind it up and try it again. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 7th, they are due to send up Wilson, Gordon, and Mark Ellis. 3-3 tie. Giants led 1-0. Dodgers led 3-1. Hunter Pence has hit 2 home runs. The second one with a man aboard tied it up 3-3. There goes Pagan, and down goes Monell. And so Brian Wilson comes in, does a good job, gets a force play and a strikeout, and we're heading for the bottom of the 7th, 3-3. Stadium, and it's a dandy. It's been worth watching. It is indeed push against shove. Dodgers will shove off after the game to Arizona. Hyun-Jin Ryu against Trevor Cahill, Zach Greinke and Patrick Corbin, Clayton Kershaw and Brandon McCarthy, and Ricky Nolasco and Wade Miley. And somewhere in there, the Dodgers hope to reduce the magic number to 0. But it's still hung at 4, and it's very much hung up on the numbers 3-3 right now. Brian Wilson made 15 pitches in relief, and now Gene Machi on the mound. He's from a town in Venezuela called El Tigre. I assume the Tiger. He lives in Guarico. 6-footer, a big 230. He's 30 years old and was originally drafted by the Phillies. Finally worked his way to the Giants last year. Spent 13 years in the minor leagues until he was called up September 1 a year ago. 13 years. Meanwhile, the Dodgers have Michael Young to start it off, batting for Wilson. Dee Gordon is on deck, and then Mark Ellis. So Young, who has had a magnificent career, 14 years in the big leagues, against a guy who has spent 13 years in the minors. Two and 0. Hit off the end of the bat. Machi bare hands it, guns it to first. So Young taps out, and we have one out here in the 7th inning. And the batter will be Dee Gordon. Dee Gordon hit back to the box, lined out to center, single to left, and scored a run. When the Giants come up in the 8th inning, they'll start with Blanco. Gordon, of course, the Dodgers would give anything to get him on base to steal. Gordon has stolen 8 out of 10. That's a strike. After Gordon, you have Ellis, but then Boschy looks ahead to Adrian Gonzalez, so Bruce gets Javier Lopez, the talented left-hander, up in the pen. Bottom of the 7th, 3-3. Showed bunt. 2-1. Dodgers with Volquez, Howell, and Wilson. Giants with Vogelsong and Machi. Big problem for the Dodgers. The Giants have Hunter Pence. Ball 3. You know what Pence has done? He is the first Giant to have 5 home runs and 12 RBIs in a series since Mel Ott did it in 1929 against the Phillies. Ottey had 5 home runs and 17 runs batted in. And of course, Pence isn't finished. 3-1. And ball 4. So the Dodgers see a little opening here as Gordon draws a big walk. So Mark Ellis coming up. Double, single, hit by a pitch, scored a run. So Ellis 2 for 2. hitting a solid .275. Machi basically a power pitcher, fastball, curve, changeup. That's about it. So Gordon, who probably has not seen Machi before, trying to see his best move while at the same time trying not to get picked off. Ellis, meanwhile, has to have a little patience if Gordon is going to try to run. And it's thrown away. So one base from the rubber, and it just shows you what happens with speed. Even the thought of it causes a problem. So Machi draws the throwing error, overthrowing a 6'5" first baseman. Error one. So the Dodgers get a break. Now Ellis with Gonzalez on deck. And the meeting at the mound. Sanchez and Machi. Mark Ellis this year has 44 runs batted in, half a dozen home runs. Mark, a quick look at Wallach. Gordon taking a pretty good lead. The only man he could cut it down is Noonan. Foul back, 0-1. Ellis is not the type hitter who would cause the third baseman to play that deep, though the door is not open for D. Gordon. Pablo very near the bag. 0-1. On deck, Adrian Gonzalez. He has a date with Javier Lopez for sure. Oh, and 1. Well, Gordon read that move early. He read that leg move. He was on his way back to the bag just as Machi raised that leg. Oh, and 1. And a high fly ball to left center. It's playable. Going back is Blanco. Tagging up is Gordon. And after the catch, Gordon roars into third. So a stolen base, and the fly ball is deep enough to move him up a notch, but it's also the second out. So now let's see. They could pitch to Gonzalez. They could put him on. They could bring in Javi Lopez. But you have Juan Uribe on deck. So it could very well be the old story of don't give him a strike. And now they're going to walk him. So rather than bring in Lopez, once Gordon got over to third base, they'll just put him on and go right-hander against right-hander. Machi with a go-ahead runner at third. We will check the very important part of a pitcher's repertoire, and he does have 2 wild pitches. Another reason they certainly didn't want to pitch to Adrian Gonzalez in this spot. Runner in scoring position and 2 out. Adrian is hitting .375, and he's already burned the Giants. Remember, with 1 out and the bases loaded, he doubled in all 3 back in the 5th inning. So it was either going to be a case of bringing in Lopez, that's why he was warming up, or putting Gonzalez on. And Bruce Bochy has opted to keep Machi going in against Uribe. Uribe grounded out twice in between. He hit a ball up the top of the center field fence. It appeared to be inches from going out. It was a triple leading off the fourth inning, and the Dodgers couldn't get him home with nobody out. And that's a huge play now in a 3-3 tie. What about Uribe with 2 out and a runner in scoring position? He's hitting .290. Two out, 7th inning, 3-3. On 1. So the former Giant Brian Wilson came in, 15 pitches, got the side out in the top of the 7th. Now the former Giant Juan Uribe. Oh, and 2, one slider after another. Machi a barrel-chested .230 at least. No balls, 2 strikes to Juan Uribe. There goes Gonzalez, and down goes Uribe. Boy, you talk about time for desperate measures. You run Adrian Gonzalez, and Uribe strikes out. So no runs, no hits, 2 left, and it's still 3-3. .3-3 tie. The Dodgers using their 4th pitcher, and it's left-hander Paco Rodriguez. Machi made 17 tough pitches to get out of the 7th inning. The Dodgers leaving a runner at 3rd. So it means the Dodgers now 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Dodgers in the series, at one stage we told you they were hitting 107 with runners in scoring position, so the offense completely turned off. Uribe 1 for 4, and that really points it up. His triple with nobody out in the 4th inning, and Messrs. Schumacher, who struck out, Hairston soft line drive out, Ellis a fly ball, and they left him. And how they rue that inning now that they're locked up 3-3. Brett Pill is going to come up and bat for Gregor Blanco. We were wondering if he was out on deck. They hit for Noonan, a left-hand batter. They're going to have somebody else hit. Might be Joaquin Arias, and that's who it is. So it's Brett Pill to start it off. The other first baseman, the right-hand hitting first baseman. Pill started one game, the Clayton Kershaw game, ball one. In that game, he wound up going 1 for 4, but he had a key base hit to drive in 2 runs. Brett from San Dimas went to school at Cal State Fullerton, 2-0 their count. 7th round pick by the Giants. Younger brother also played at Cal State Fullerton. He was a 4th round pick by the Mets just 2 years ago. Reason they were playing baseball early, Brett's father Mike was drafted by the Pirates and played in the minors for a couple of years. 2-1 the count. Brett Pill's finest hour as a youngster. He had a pinch hit triple, igniting a winning rally in the College World Series for Cal State Fullerton over Texas. 3-1 the count. So Paco Rodriguez will get Pill, Noonan, and Belt, and Noonan's spot appears to be occupied by Joaquin Arias. That's a strike. Three and 2 the count. 8th inning, 3-3. And driven to left field down the line. Hairston going over, looking at that one, and it is gone. So Brett Pill homers down the left field line, the 3rd Giant home run of the day. Pence had the other 2, and so Brett Pill from San Dimas strikes a big home run, and the Giants lead 4-3. For Pill, his 3rd home run, his 12th run batted in. Interesting too, his 2nd home run to hurt the Dodgers. So now Arias coming in, smiles in the Giant dugout as they try to make it miserable for the Dodgers and win 3 out of 4. So Brett Pill, big home run, and here is Joaquin Arias. He can play short and 3rd. So Pill hitting a clutch home run in front of the home folks. Arias has been hitting very well of late. This time ground ball to Uribe. 1 out. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 8th inning, Schumacher, Hairston, and Ellis. And Brett Pill kind of walking off the thrill of the home run. Now with 1 out, here comes Brandon Belt. Grounded out, struck out, single to right, and was aboard when Hunter Pence hit his 2nd home run. 4-3 Giants, top of the 8th. Arizona was breezing the last we heard. They were piling it on. Down in the Giant bullpen, hard throwing Santiago Casilla is warming up. Breaking ball grounded to Gonzalez, who juggles, recovers, and feeds his man coming over. So Arias grounding out 3-1, 2 down. And now here he is, Hunter Pence. To repeat that note that we gave you a little while ago, the first Giant with 5 home runs, 12 RBIs in the series. since Mel Ott in 1929. Ottie had 5 home runs, 17 RBIs. Eventually he became the manager of the Giants. Over in Arizona, the D-backs figured they're having a feast. They're beating the Rockies 8-2, top of the 9th inning with 2 outs. So it looks like that one is over. And if the Dodgers are going to reduce the magic number, A, they're going to have to come from behind, and B, they're going to have to try and figure out who can do it. Without Ramirez and without Ethier, the offense has lacked a bit of a punch, that's for sure. Ronald Belisario has been throwing in the bullpen. Nick Punto, double switch, and as Belisario trots in from the pen, we'll be back. The 8th inning with 2 out. Meanwhile, Arizona has defeated the Rockies again, 8-2. The magic number is still 4. Ronald Belisario has concluded his warm-ups. Nick Punto is now at shortstop for D. Gordon, and Belisario trying to get the amazing Mr. Pence. Hunter Pence, 25 home runs. Just tearing things up. And ball 1. Pence's 5 home runs in his series ties him for most home runs in his series against the Dodgers. Frank Thomas, big right-hand batter for the Pirates years ago, had 5 home runs in a 5-game series in the Coliseum with the big screen. That was back in 1958. And Mike Schmidt, the great third baseman of the Phillies, he had a 5 home run 4-game series here at Dodger Stadium. 1 ball, 1 strike, fouled away. By the way, we mentioned Punto coming in. We thought he was heading for short, but he takes over at third for Uribe, and Gordon stays in the game. "4-3 Giants, trying to win 3 out of 4. Stubbornly trying to refuse to let the Dodgers whittle on the magic number. 2-2. So Brett Pill breaks the tie. Pence's 7 RBIs last night. Most RBIs for an individual player. At least he joins a select group in one game at Dodger Stadium. That's going down the line foul. In fact, we qualify those 7 RBIs. That makes him second. Darryl Strawberry, Barry Bonds, Sean Green, Hunter Pence, they all had 7. Dave Kingman had 8 twice. And Fernando Tatis, remember he hit 2 grand slams against Janho Park? He had 8. Two balls, 2 strikes. Ball 3. The home run, that's the difference. The 4th home run allowed by Paco Rodriguez. 4th, 3 of them hit by right-handers. 3-2. And he walks Pence. And of course, if you walk Pence, you are not stopping him at all. I mean, you let him get aboard, you're asking for more trouble. Remember, he has stolen 21 out of 23. Pablo Sandoval coming up is 0 for 3 today. Giants have had 1 stolen base back in the 3rd inning. Gregor Blanco stole 2nd. Four 3 Giants, 2 out, 8th inning. Big crowd, library quiet. It's one of those cases where you can really hear the quiet. And there goes Pence, hit and run ground ball, and they will get the out, and that's that. So Sandoval taps out 2nd to 1st. However, Brett Pill comes off the bench, hits a home run, and it's 4-3 Giants. Bruce Bochy makes a couple of moves. Francisco Peguera will now go into left field. That's move number 1. Joaquin Arias, who batted for Brandon Belt, stays in the game at 2nd base. And the new pitcher is Casilla, Santiago Casilla. So it's been Vogelsong, Machi, and Casilla. So the Giants defensively now, you have Belt, Arias, Crawford, Sandoval, Peguero, Pagan, and Pence. And Casilla will be pitching to Schumacher, followed by Hairston. 0-1. Schumacher singled, struck out, lined out, 1 for 3. Dodgers in one-run decisions at home have done very well. They won 15 out of 20. 0-2. The Giants on the road have not done well. 6-17 in one-run games. One ball and two strikes. You would not know 47,000 are here, but they are. And on the corner, strike three called. So Schumacher strikes out a second time. Casilla picks up one before 47,302. 47,302. The Dodger offense, which has been missing of late, and it's really pointed up in this series. The Dodgers, with runners in scoring position in the series, hitting 121. So here's Hairston, fly to right, line to short, this one to the gap, and picked off by Pagan. So he's 0 for 4. And we have 2 out in the 8th inning. And the batter will be A.J. Ellis, grounded out, flied out, lost a hit on a wonderful play by Brandon Crawford. Giants had Pence homer in the second. The Dodgers scratched for 3 in the 5th when Adrian Gonzalez doubled home, the bases loaded, only to have Pence hit a 2-run home run in the 6th inning to tie, and Brett Pill come off the bench and homer in the 8th to give the Giants a 4-3 lead. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Kenley Jansen is beginning to loosen up. One and one the count. Santiago Casilla, hard thrower. Casilla is from the Dominican. 33 years old. Fastball, slicing fly ball down the right field line in the corner, back into the crowd. So A.J. Ellis battling Santiago Casilla. One thing about Casilla, he has struggled as a closer. He has had 6 blown saves. But he gives hitters a terrible time. Ground ball to third. Up with it is Pablo. And the Dodgers roll over in the 8th inning. So we are heading for the 9th with the Giants leading the Dodgers 4-3. on the pinch hit home run by Brett Pill. So in the ninth, the Giants coming up. The Dodgers, meanwhile, to look ahead in the bottom of the ninth inning. They figure to have Nick Buss, then Punto and Gordon. So Belisario, who came in, walked Pence and got Sandoval in the eighth, will now start off the ninth inning. Hector Sanchez, followed by Brandon Crawford, and then Angel Pagan. Dodgers will head for Arizona, so that if they do not come up with a bottom of the ninth inning victory and lose this one, they would then have to win 2 of the 4 with Arizona to wipe out the magic number in Arizona. Sanchez fly to left, single to right, grounded to third. Switch hitting catcher 0 for 1. Then singled in the 5th inning. Hector hitting in the 390s right-handed, 220s left. 2 of his 3 home runs hit left-handed. Fly ball to deep center. Back goes Skip and makes the catch. Boy, that was a fine play. That ball really carried. It's the second time today that Schumacher has had to go all the way to the fence. In the very first inning, the leadoff hitter, Gregor Blanco, chased him all the way. So Schumacher, nice play to get Sanchez. 1 out in the 9th. Brandon Crawford struck out, flied out, and walked. So a couple of dandy defensive plays in center. On deck, Angel Pagan, who batted for Juan Perez. 0-1. Fastball lifted down the line, coming over as Hairston in the corner in the shade, and makes a catch. He had to come a long way. Crawford, a left-hand batter, so he was shading him more towards left center. 2 down in the top of the 9th. And Angel Pagan coming up. Down in the Giant bullpen, Sergio Romo begins to loosen up. There he is. Romo came in to close the game that the Giants won 4-2. That's ball 1. Tony Abreu comes out on deck. He would be batting for Francisco Peguero should Pagan get aboard. 1 ball and no strikes. Ball 2. To repeat, when the Dodgers come up, scheduled to hit the young right fielder Nick Buss in his 2nd major league game. Then it would be Nick Punto and then D. Gordon. Buss, left-hand hitter. Punto, you know. And Gordon. And that's lifted to shallow left. Hairston started the wrong way, but Jerry comes in easily to make the play. So Belisario, just 3 fly balls, and now it's up to the Dodger hitters. Bottom of the 9th coming up. Giants leading 4-3, and Sergio coming in. Romo to try and close it up. Romo 4-7 with an ERA of 2.5. He has saved 34, so trying to pick up his 35th save. So Romo tuning up. The Dodgers will have the young right fielder Nick Buss, then Nick Punto and D. Gordon. Of course, there are a lot of people in reserve, like Carl Crawford, a left-hand batter. Can't use Ethier, can't use Ramirez. Punto is in the game. Young's been in. Everybody else right-handed. So they stick with young Nick Buss. 0 for 3, 3 ground balls. The boy from Southfield, Michigan, made his big league debut last night. The Giants afield Belt, Arias, Crawford, and Sandoval, Peguero, Pagan, and Pence. Arizona won, so the magic number is still 4. And a strike. Buss grounded to second twice and grounded to first. Had his first major league base hit last night. One ball and one strike. Sergio Romo, the boy from Brawley, 30 years old. And a strike, 1 and 2. Since it's the last game of the year here for the Giants, we've told it before, Romo remembers being 11 years old and sitting right by the left field foul pole, rooting for Rudy Cianaz. That's going to be a flare into right field. So Buss loops one into right. The tying run is aboard, and Nick Punto coming up.
Third baseman number 7, Nick Punto.
Nick Punto just getting into the game. This will be his first at bat. Little fly ball, but it dropped in. The old story, looks like a line drive in the box score. So the Dodgers have the tying run aboard. And you have Punto and Gordon and Mark Ellis. Sandoval playing in on the grass. Punto bunts a lot, so we'll see if they want him to sacrifice. Punto has 5 sacrifices, and if you've been following the Dodgers, you know he'll try for a bunt base hit about every game he starts, at least once. Shows bunt on a pitch out. 1 ball and no strikes.
Let's go, Dodgers.
One ball and no strikes. Keeping an eye. I have no really idea about Buss and his running speed, but he's young enough to assume he runs pretty well. But he certainly doesn't know any of the moves in the big leagues. One ball and no strikes. Shadows could complicate things. Little spidery shadows in sunlight cast in front of the mound. Home plate area cut in half. Shade and sunlight. 1 ball and no strikes. Foul back, 1-1. Game is about 3 hours 15 minutes, something like that. I think the record for a 9-inning game, and naturally the Giants and the Dodgers, it was a playoff game back in 1962. And the game lasted 4 hours and 18 minutes. This one is just warming up. About 3 hours and 25 minutes. 1 ball and 1 strike. Punto shows bunt, reaches for it, pulls the bat back. 2 balls and 1 strike. So now 2-1. Punto has a look at Tim Wallach. The bunt is down. The play will be Sanchez to first. Punto typically going head first into the bag. So the sacrifice works. Buss advances to second. And now it's up to Gordon and/or Ellis to pick him up. So Punto getting 5s as he comes into the Dodger dugout. Not only for getting the bunt down, for his overall hustle as well. So Nick does his job. Now D. Gordon hit back to the box, lined out to center, single a left and scored, walked and stole a base. So he's been busy, 1 for 3. Sandoval defending against the bunt. Slow curveball for a strike. 0-1. On deck, Mark Ellis. One out in the 9th, 4-3 Giants. A line drive base hit into right field. Here comes Buss. The throw to the plate, they're going to stop Buss. And it's a good thing they did, because Hunter Pence rifled a one-hopper. So D. Gordon comes up with his 2nd hit. The Dodgers now are 1st and 3rd, 1 out in the 9th, and the batter is Mark Ellis. Take another look. Line drive, single to right, but Pence was able to charge, and Buss wisely stopped by Tim Wallach. He'd have been out otherwise. So Mark Ellis trying to get Nick Buss at home. A reminder, Dodgers Live will come up after the game, but the Dodgers are hoping it'll be a little while longer. On deck, Adrian Gonzalez. And of course the Giants now have to worry, among other things, about D. Gordon. 1 out, runners at the corners. And ball 1. So Romo has given up 2 hits and the sacrifice. Ellis checking with Wallach. Four, 3 Giants, 1 out, 9th inning. Dodgers at 1st and 3rd. Gordon bluffs. 1-1 the count to Mark Ellis. Romo has only walked 10 and struck out 55. There goes Gordon. The pitch is outside. There's no throw. And the Dodgers have runners at second and third as Gordon steals for the second time today. So now the tying run is 90 feet away, and the winning run is at second base. 2-1 to count to Mark Ellis. Adrian Gonzalez on deck. And remember, Uribe is not hitting after Gonzalez. Uribe went out. Belisario would be hitting in Uribe's spot. 2-1. Strike, slow breaking ball on the outside corner, and the count 2-2. Your thought, I guess, is how important this is. If they get Ellis and the runners stay, they probably put Gonzalez on. All right, 2-2, big pitch, and Ellis backs out. Spinning a bat around in the Dodger dugout, guess who? Yasiel Puig. We couldn't see him, but we could see the bat spinning around like a drum major. There's only one who does that. All right, 2-2 to Mark Ellis. And down he goes, and the Dodger failure to hit with runners in scoring position is shocking. So now they have a place to put Gonzalez. Does it make any sense at all to pitch to him? He doubled with the bases loaded in the fifth inning to drive in 3. And we'll see what Bruce does. No doubt who's out on deck. And they will walk. So in a moment, even when he doesn't start, somehow, some way, Puig winds up in the electric moment. Center stage in the spotlight. And that's where he'll be in a moment. So ball 3 coming up. Second time they've walked Gonzalez intentionally, so he'll wind up 1 for 3 with 3 RBIs. So okay, it'll be up to Puig.
Defensive post for the Dodgers, number 66.
Puig didn't start today. It was reported he had some hip tightness and soreness on his left side. Mattingly said he didn't think it's a big deal. He also said, I would think he's off limits today, but that was before the game. He is on limits now. Bases loaded, 2 out, 9th inning, 4-3 Giants. Just a little taste of what would happen in the playoffs. Ground ball to Crawford, quick force play, and that's it. The Giants win 3 out of 4. The Dodgers, unfortunately, could not hit a lick with a runner in scoring position, and the magic number has lost its luster. It remains at 4, and the 4 haunts the Dodgers tonight as the Giants win it 4-3. So it's on to Arizona, where the Dodgers hope to win at least 2, and that would erase the numbers. Stay tuned for Dodgers Live coming up next. Good afternoon, everybody.